and good evening from Portugal. 6:15 or soon after here on the GMT on the Lisbon time, and we're glad to be here. Looks like John Nugget's already got out and grown. We'll be back in just a minute. But Anna here, head gardener McGrady. How you doing, Anna?
Yeah, doing good. Yes, it's not too bad weather-wise, although it's down to 7 at the moment, so a bit cool here and there, but got some good weather on and off. So yeah, all good.
Bit chilly here as well, Anna, but we'll talk about that when we go to the head gardener. I wonder what his temperatures in Lisbon have been like today. John, you first though. How are you, John? Thought you'd got out and grown there for a minute.
Oh no. I just went to get a drink because I was thirsty, but it wasn't very well timed.
No, we do talk about water here. Oh, Lee's gone now as well. So how are you doing, mate?
It's a disappearing act today.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm all right actually. Not too bad. Yeah, not too bad.
All right, head gardener McGrady, how's the capital? News from the capital, sir.
Beautiful today. Shorts weather. I'm in my shorts.
Oh, check him out. Look at that.
Yeah, it's been gorgeous today. Down to my t-shirt and shorts early on.
Very good. So what are you looking at? Yeah. 17, 18 degrees there.
Pushing. Must have been over that this afternoon. I was hot. Yeah, it was lovely.
Superb. Yeah. Well, do please say hello wherever you are in the world. People doing that already in central Portugal. A bit chillier there, I suspect. And maybe not quite as sunny, but maybe as bright as that picture there in Jason's picture. Hello to you, Jason. And we must come to you because I'm sure your homestead would have changed a lot since we last visited. Whenever it suits you, we'd love another tour if that's cool with you. Don't forget to check out on YouTube the earlier tour. A brilliant little dig around, a little look around Jason's homestead there in central Portugal. And Eric's here as well from Mexico, we believe, as well this afternoon. And Baldylocks is here, who's not often here with us in the afternoon, often in the mornings, and saying good morning, team. Do you want to pick up that question, John, from Baldylocks?
I haven't actually seen the question, to be honest.
He's on the screen right now.
Oh, he is there. I see. Good morning, team. Do Plumberies grow in Portugal? I've never seen them in any pics of Portugal. It seems that the Bogo Ina Vila. I'm not very good at my Portuguese pronunciations. Are everywhere. Very John. Unforgiving if you're stuck by the thorns.
Indeed. And I'm sorry I did that to you, but it was a lot of fun for me, but a little bit of a challenge for you. Plumerias, I've never heard of those. And bougainvillea is the ubiquitous plant often seen in Portugal. Plumerias, head gardener, what do we know about those?
I have seen them. They're few and far between, but I have seen them in some of the big specialist garden centres. Okay. I don't have any, but yeah, they are available.
Okay, and a flowering bush, possibly by the sound of it, not food. And Baldylocks goes on to make an excellent point. Gardening is one of the best natural therapies I know. I will miss my garden when I leave the US. I hope we can help you and inspire you to start another one when you get to Portugal. Baldylocks, I'm sure we'll be able to do that. And it's, I don't know what, you're in California, aren't you? So I imagine growing's pretty easy for you over there. Tell us about some of your favorites and the extent of your plot over there, or even send pictures and we'll pop them up on the screen. So Baldylocks, thanks for getting us going this early evening here and your morning over there, and that wonderful comment. It is one of the best natural therapies, isn't it, Lee?
He won't find much difference between California and here. It's not a massive difference in the plants we can grow and get away with. Depending whereabouts in Portugal he is, if he stays further south where we get less of the frost, he'll feel right at home. Yeah.
Okay, marvelous. Yes, and people talking about Portugal as being the California of Europe, of course. And I must dig out that article from the San Francisco Bay News, I think, that said exactly that. Beautiful today, says Jason in central Portugal. And thanks for this, John. I don't know if you want to voice it.
I will. So this is my normal thing that I do. But if you did forget to let Anna know about your question or have only just thought of one, let us know right here in the comments or the comments on YouTube, obviously, if you're watching on YouTube, which you might be.
Very good, very good. Okay, and Cindy B saying to Baldylocks, agreed about the garden therapy. It's the green gym, of course, as well, isn't it? Baldylocks, you'll love gardening here in Portugal. And hey, OLP's here too. Baldylocks, I'm going to miss my gardens in Oregon. I mean, we showed some beautiful pictures of your lovely big deck, OLP. I think I deleted them once I showed them on the morning show, but I'll see if I've still got them on WhatsApp, because they are thoroughly appropriate for this afternoon. I think we showed them mainly on the morning show, didn't we? But let me know. Jason's happy to show us around his plot again. Won't be long until the days are a little longer. Of course, because we're going to have to wait, aren't we, until this time of night where he's actually got some light to show us around the plot. So that to look forward to later on in the spring. Eric has a question, but before we go to that, Anna, what you got this evening?
I'm not sure. I'll put a question to Lee first. Do you want a short question or a lengthy question?
Or say?
Let's go for the short one first.
Okay. This one is Catherine's. It's on raspberry bushes, and her question is, why do my raspberry bushes not bear fruits?
Okay. There's many reasons that she could be having problems with it. Your irrigation has to be timed quite well. They need water when it's really hot to get them through the year. I presume she's in Portugal. And the pruning needs to be done correctly as well. At the right time of year. This time of year, it needs to be while it's still not too hot. And also, I know a lot of people just get 1 or 2 canes and think that's enough. And it's not. You need multiple canes to get the pollination from the flowers. So could be either of those are like the 3 main reasons. So multiple canes, correct pruning, and the correct watering. They could all be good reasons why it's not fruiting.
There you go. Don't give up. Don't blow out on a raspberry, or don't blow a raspberry there. John, have you got any good gardening jokes? It's not easy. It's not going to be difficult to improve on that, is it? Let's face it.
I can't think of any gardening jokes at the moment.
You'll come up with a pun during the show, no doubt.
I'll try and think of something before the end of the show. However, what I do have is I was wondering if anybody's got any good gardening safety tips, especially to give to people who are maybe just starting in the first time in gardening, or if people are moving to Portugal and there's different safety tips that you might have in Portugal compared to in Cornwall in England, for example. I don't know. So if there is anything like that, which there is, then get that in the comments and we shall read them out.
Nice one, John. Nice one, John. And when we see that glint in your eye, we'll know you have a pun ready as well. Okay. Can you grow? Here's another one from Dougie Hughes in Wales. Can you grow fresh Donna Kebabs in Portugal? I think he's been on the beer already. Mine are irrigated with gallons of carling, and I get a great annual crop. He started early, I think, tonight, hasn't he, Lee? I've never seen a Donna Kebab tree or bush here in Portugal.
Unfortunately, no, they don't grow very well in Portugal. And I've yet to find one in a decent shop, to be honest. Going back to the going back to the carling, I had a beer at lunchtime and decided to try dry January. I thought, I've got to make an effort. I'm going to have a dry January after this beer. So I've no more beer for the rest of January for me.
Oh, well done. Sterling effort. Sterling effort. Oh, someone's got to do it, haven't they? Wow. Well, we take our hats off to you, our gardening woolly hats off to you. Well done. Safety tip for the UK: wrap up warm, take a flask and a sandwich. It's going to be the opposite. We need to make the dehydration point, obviously, don't we, over here in Portugal? When it gets really hot, look after yourself and make sure you stay hydrated. It can get to you because you get carried away, don't you, when you're working?
It's exactly the opposite. You should wear a thin long sleeve shirt and wear a hat.
Yeah.
Okay. The sun can just trick you every time. You think you're fine, and then you sat down with sunstroke by 6 o'clock. Okay,
so something for your bonds. Look after your bonds and protect your arms. Long sleeve shirt. Good point there. We'll go back to Eric then and ask this from Eric. We have a durazno tree, and that's it's grown half a meter thereabouts in a year, and it's very unhappy. It has a baby that's like 25 centimeters high, which is healthy. Do you think it's better to cut the main tree and keep the baby, or vice versa? Great question, because that's a high-risk strategy, right, Lee?
I would always suggest to keep the main tree and cut the baby. Go the opposite way around.
Oh,
yeah.
Counterintuitive. Right.
Keep the main tree with a heavy prune and get rid of the sucker. That's coming up from its.
Okay. We're losing you a bit, I think, on your signal there, Lee. But I think we get the gist. So to cut the sucker, cut the sucker and keep the main tree, even though it doesn't look very happy.
Well, it might just need a decent prune, tidy up.
Okay.
All right. I've done the same with my lemon tree today. Actually, I've been up and butchered my lemon tree today because it wasn't very happy. So.
Oh right, and that's how you've dealt with that by like going in tough.
Well, we've been here now. This is the third season in this garden, and the tree must be 20, 25 years old. It's never been pruned properly. I put a picture in the little chat group earlier, and I've just demolished it today. I've just butchered it with a chainsaw. It'll bounce back. It looks like I've committed genocide on it, but it'll bounce back.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. It'd be great to see a picture of that, just to see how harsh you can go on a tree. And durazno.
I posted the picture in our chat, actually.
All right. I will go look for that and bring it onto the screen. Yeah. Does anyone know what a durazno tree is that Eric's talking about, by the way?
No, I don't, actually. But
I'll show you the fruit.
Yeah, if you can find it, let's have a look.
Here's the fruit. It's very familiar to us. Now, it's either a peach or a nectarine tree, isn't it? Looks like a nectarine.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
But it's funny when you search for something, when you Yahoo or Google something, it's funny how you often get conflicting pictures, because I can see nectarines, peaches, and flat peaches in there. So it's going to be one of those. And maybe you could give us a bit more guidance on that, durazno, or anybody else here who's got something to say about that. And going back to Plumerias as well, we have a shot of the Plumerias, which are a very nice bloom. It has to be said. So let me just share those with you from Baldylocks before we move on too far as well. Plumerias or Plumerias look a lot like this, folks. Aren't they beautiful? Look at that. Very lovely. And then, Lee's having a zoom in there. Does that make any sense to you?
No, it does. And like I said, I've seen them for sale in the shops, but I've never actually seen one in gardens here. I've not actually worked with one. You can get them like a vine as well. You get people that grow them like a vine, I believe, but I've not seen one. I've not seen one of any decent size or to deal with.
Thanks, Lee. Gone with the baby it is then. Enjoying that mischief a little bit as well there in Mexico. And specifically Prunus persica is what we have there. And staying with the pruning, when is it best to prune early flowering fruit trees? It's the same question, really, isn't it? As it turns out, peach, plum, etc. Same again, Lee?
It's now. Yeah, it's now. It's why I've done my lemon tree. It's the right time of year. So it seems very drastic, and my lemon tree I've cut very drastic. I did the orange trees last year, and I was very gentle with them. But I'm going to start like a rotation because I've got so many to do. I'm going to do heavy cuts throughout the next couple of years just to get them down in size because they haven't been looked after properly.
So a long-term view then, you're thinking about pruning not only for this year, but cutting it back again for next year as well?
It's always been my method when it comes to doing trees. You've got to stand back and look at it as a long-term project. The lemon tree needed doing. It was in a terrible condition. It needed to be butchered. So it got butchered. But the rest of the trees, I've been gently with them. Just so I can retain fruit bearing branches, just so we can get a bit of fruit off them each year. So.
John's got that look on his face.
I was just thinking blue in heck about those flowers being in bloom. I know that's a terrible one, isn't it? But yeah.
Better than nothing. Better than nothing, isn't it? Safety tip 1. He's really into the kebabs tonight. Don't put too much chili on your kebab. Lee, Doug, when you come to Caldosteronio, I'll take you to Ali Baba's in the La Vie shopping centre, and we can eat kebabs together in there. Very good. Donna Kebabs. That's certainly a good place. And the Portuguese do, I mean, I know it's not a food program. Lee will tell us this in just a minute and stop us talking about food. But you can get a kebab no prato in most Portuguese cafes, but it's not exactly a Donna Kebab that Lee is possibly used to dripping down onto his shoes late on a Saturday night or into Sunday morning.
It's not like the old beer soakers from back in England, are they?
Beer soaker.
They're not
Brilliant. Okay. More safety tips, John. Good question then. Safety tip for Portugal: wear a hat, cold beer, and a water. So extra hydration there to make up for the beer, maybe. But
I don't know what the water's for. I don't know why he's drinking water.
Very good. Anna, should we go to you for that longer question of the two that you've got this evening?
Yeah. So I had to sort of cram it onto a bit of paper, so I'll read it off my phone just so I can read it easily.
Nice
This is from Jacqueline Ferreira, who's recently moved to central Portugal, and she says, I've recently moved to Portugal and only just begun clearing a multi-level terrain. Most of the land has fruit trees, so not that much planting space. I'd love to learn more about shady planting, especially vegetables that I can plant now in semi-shaded areas. I'd also absolutely love some projects on DIY projects for the garden, from decoration to functional flower boxes, bird houses, water baths, etc. I'd love to have these ideas made of recycled goods even more. Wood's expensive here, and do have a few scraps and so much old furniture left behind in the old house. I'd hate to throw these out and would appreciate how to turn them into functional garden items. Not familiar with anything yet, as I've only been here all 4 seasons, only moved from South Africa a while ago. Plant selection advice would also be a bonus. And she loved plants that resemble a Mediterranean forest, it says as well.
Superb. Let's break that down then. What's the first bit there, Anna? Let's recap on that. What was the first part of the question?
Recently moved and only just begun clearing a multi-level terrain. Most of the land has fruit trees, so not a lot of planting space. Would love to learn more about shady planting, especially veg that she can plant now in semi-shaded areas. That was the first bit.
Okay, great.
As people that have been following the show since last year or the year before, my main veg crop is all grown under the shade of a plum tree and a lemon tree. Well, not so much lemon tree now because I've just killed it, but it was last year. So there's no real issues with growing it under the shade of fruit trees here. It's actually beneficial to the plant because it doesn't get so bleached by the sun.
Yeah.
So you can use that to your advantage. So the stuff like the onions, the garlics, the lettuce, the carrots, all stuff like that, I grow under the shade of a plum and a lemon tree. So she'll have no problem growing veg under the shade of the trees. My tomatoes like a bit more sun, so they get put in a sunnier spot. The tall stuff like the corn, that needs to be in a bit more of an open space as well because it needs the height. But most of the small veg, they'll be quite happy under the shade of a fruit tree. And then go back to the usual answer to questions about plant selection is look at what's for sale in your local stores and look at your neighbours and see what they're doing. I simply
mentioned that one in my answer, I think. So I had a feeling that was going to come up. The sort of seeing what's growing around next door, that sort of thing.
I mean, it's a simple answer. We give it every week, but it's so obvious once you start doing it. Yeah. If you're concerned about when you should be planting things in your microclimate, look and see what your neighbours are planting. Look and see what's for sale at your local cooperative rather than the supermarket because they never get it right. There you go. Everything's under the shade, but it's not too tall.
And it sounded like it was a terraced site, maybe quite a big one. Other considerations, I think you said before, Leah, about watering. So don't be giving yourself too much work to do with the planting of vegetables, right?
Yes, especially on a terrace. In a terrace situation, you don't want to carry water up or down the hills, because you will get tired of it very quickly. So a good irrigation system to start with, at the start, do it now before you start planting anything. Sort your irrigation system out and get your main water pipe down the hill. Yeah, it's a necessity. Because come August time, you just won't do it. You won't carry water up down the hill.
No, you'll soon tire of that, as you say. Okay, that's fantastic. Next bit of the question then, please, Anna.
Let's have a look. Yeah, and yes, there was and also request. I'd also absolutely love some projects on DIY projects for the garden, from decoration to functional, i.e. flower boxes, bird houses, water baths, etc. And she'd love to have these ideas made of recycled goods even more.
Beautiful. I'd love to answer this part of the question, if I may, Lee. I'm sure you'll have something to add to it. But I've been involved in this myself. We were at a house that was an old hotel, and it had loads of bedsteads that I turned into planters that were fantastic. There was so much stuff in there. It was great, and we had a lot of fun in that house. I remember especially the beautiful satsuma tree that it had. That was just perfect. The fruit was perfect for Christmas, as you might expect with Christmassy citrus. But more recently, I've got some pictures to show you, and we'll come back to the vicious pruning on the lemon tree. I've got those pictures now to share. But in the garden this weekend, this is some timber. This is just general. I mean, for our questioner here, making raised beds and planters. This is a sheet of timber I found at Leroy Merlin, which is like the top DIY store in Portugal. You can get a sheet like this, which is 200 by 600, and it splits into thirds and ends up making a nice planter like this, which I did over the weekend. So there's something you can do. And that sheet of wood, that sheet of wood only costs about 16.5 euros, I think, if I remember rightly, which is quite a nice, which is quite economical. I mean, I was looking at little planters in Leroy Merlin, and a little 2 foot by 1 foot planter, nicely made in a kind of stained preservative sort of finish, is 60 euros. So this isn't stained. On one level, you could say that's a good thing because you got your food in it and you haven't got any preservatives or anything like that. But you could treat it if you wanted to, and you can knock this into any shape and size you want. And the pegs that I've done in the corners are made from an old pallet that Cindy B gave me, who's here tonight, of course. So there's that one there made of that sheet, ripped down into thirds, and the parts of the pallet that Cindy gave me are the sides of this and a piece of old, it looks like skirting, but another piece of timber that I found, going back to our questioner's inquiry here. Found timber's great. If you send me what you've got, send me pictures of what you've got. Very happy to give you some ideas on how you might be able to slash it up and repurpose it in this way. And then from, excuse me, from by the bins, a bit of skip diving here, an old suitcase, and that's now got our strawberries in it. So you can let your imagination run wild. That's going to be beautiful, isn't it? When that's really starting to bloom and it's got strawberries hanging out of it. I think there's a joke in there somewhere, John. Strawberries in a suitcase. We'll come back to you. We'll come back to you for that. And I've got a lawn care question that I'd like to come back to too. But I love questions like that. Yeah, go on. Carry on, Lee.
Just going back to the question for DIYing. Also consider the animals that are in your garden. So you can make bee boxes, bird boxes, insect nest boxes. They're all very simple to make. It's technically just a box. There's nothing technical in making them, and the birds don't care how messy they are if it's reclaimed timber. As long as it's in the shade and it's away from the cats, the birds will love anything put up. So yeah, bird boxes, insect boxes, great way to use waste timber.
Yeah. And another part of the question was about bird feeding, wasn't it? Now, the funny thing is, I don't see many bird feeders in Portugal because it's not a thing, is it? In the same way that it is that people sort of take pity on the birds, and it's a culture, isn't it, in the UK? But not. Why is it not the same here in Portugal, Lee?
We've covered this before. I brought my bird feeder over with me, and I'm sick that no birds bloody use it because I loved it in England.
Yes.
It annoys me, but I just don't think there's the need for the birds. There's enough natural food here. There's insects all year round. There's bugs all year round. There's seeds virtually all year round. I just don't think they need it. It's in England. In England, you get 2 phases where the birds really use your feeders. They use it at nesting time when they're in a rush to get the chicks up and going, and they use it in the winter when it's really cold and they can't forage for food. So the birds in England appreciate it. You just don't have the same. They don't have the same mentality here. They don't need the assistance the same.
All right. So a bird bath might work and a nesting box might work, but the elaborate feeding techniques are a bit of a waste of time.
If you can rig some water system up for the birds, they will appreciate that, and they'll come back for that day after day, because that is in short supply all over Portugal. Easy access to water. I mean, we get them by the pool. We get the wagtails coming in by the pool all the time. Yeah. And I keep thinking we should do something more permanent for them. But the other thing to consider with that is moving water is always better than stagnant water here in Portugal. Because stagnant water, you'll have issues with mosses and stuff like that. So if you put a small pump into it, just to keep the movement in the water, then dead easy. And the pumps are very cheap here as well. 5 or 6 euros for a cheap pump.
Yeah, absolutely. Just keep that water moving around. Fantastic. Thank you, Lee. Any more to that question, Anna?
Just having a look. Only moved a while ago. Plant selection advice would also be a bonus, and loved plants that resemble Mediterranean forest, I think, was the only other part in that.
So plant selection we've done, but Mediterranean forests. I mean, what comes to mind for me is eucalyptus, sadly. What would be meant by that, Lee? A Mediterranean forest?
There's a lot of shrubs that grow sort of like an understory to the trees here in Portugal.
Okay.
Quince is quite a good one. If you're out and about, you'll see quite a lot of quince bushes that are growing wildly under all the shrubbery, under all the trees. The Forest Service come and rip it all out occasionally here because of the fear of forest fires. Yeah. But again, look at your local area and see what does well in your local forestry, and then go to Garden Centre, find a decent cooperative, and they'll get plants in for you.
Okay.
But quince is quite good because it's you can get a fruit off it. It flowers well, which the bees love. And it gives good cover for birds because the birds like to nest in it. It's quite low growing and it's gets quite dense if you leave it.
Very good, very good. Okay. Superb. And just back to Plumerias for just a moment. Baldylocks from Cindy. It does have a wonderful fragrance. It's very popular in Hawaii, you were saying, weren't you, earlier on there, Cindy? And they're often used in making leis. What are leis? Are they the things that go around your neck in Hawaii? Does anyone know what that is here? Leis?
Chips.
Say again?
Chips, Lays. No.
I saw a fantastic meme of somebody at a job interview, and there's a glass of water on the table, and the interviewer says, "Is it half full or half empty?" And the interviewee says, "It's completely full." And then the person says, "You've got the job," and leads them into the Lay's factory, which I thought was very clever, very, very good. Okay. We have Iris with us tonight as well. Hola, boa noite. What would you recommend for planting on a balcony facing the sun for much of the day? It is a very narrow strip of soil inside the wall of the balcony. Iris liked my planters. Thank you for that. And let's hope it's not like this balcony that we were showing earlier on today on the morning show. Where is it? Let me find it. Oh, yes. It's probably a little bit like this, but you don't want that on your balcony. I don't know if you can see it looking on a phone there, Lee, but there's a body on this balcony of the idealist property picture here. But similarly, sunny facing, but that's not what Iris wants to be planting there. A body, an unidentified body on the balcony. Okra, she's asking, is it too early to plant that? Would that work there? The lady's fingers, as it were?
It would do. It would work. It doesn't need a lot of space, but there's nothing stopping you from going lettuce, tomatoes. If you're careful with your selection, tumbling toms are great for balconies.
Yeah.
And also anything that'll give a bit of scent, a bit of colour. So jasmine Also, doesn't need a lot of soil for it. It will hang over the balcony. It's easy to clip back. You'll get a nice scent off it. And then there's the lavenders. They do quite well in poor quality soil in bright sunlight. So lavenders do quite nicely. You can snip them and use them for your potpourri.
Ooh,
Yeah,
very nice.
yeah, lots of ideas for balconies. But
And
consider your veg first.
Yeah, absolutely. Stuff you can eat.
Always consider what you can grow first in it to eat or use in the kitchen. So basil, any of the herbs will do well on a nice balcony. Just as long as you regularly water them, they'll be fine.
And regularly watering. Part of the question here is they face the sun for much of the day. So clearly, those sorts of planters that are going to get hot should be avoided. You want to be making sure you create some sort of shade from the direct heat, don't you?
I don't like plastic planters. We've talked about this before. In Portugal, they're just no good. They dry out too quickly. So terracotta pots are always best. And you can find really cheap thin ones that'll be not too heavy to start with.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Iris was thinking more flowers. Yeah, jasmine would be lovely.
If you were going for the plastic planters, there are some. Let them all bypass. There are some plastic planters with like a water well in the bottom of them. So when you water it, the water stays under the soil, and it lasts a little bit longer. But I'm still not keen on it.
Okay, all right. Jasmine, easy to grow and look after.
Well, just simple. Yeah, you can snip it back with a pair of scissors, and just keep. Because it will get away from itself if you leave it, but it's easy to tidy on a balcony. All
right, Iris. Lovely to hear from you. Lots of love to both of you. That's a beautiful picture of you both there, possibly on the balcony. I think that's Nazare Way here on the Silver Coast, isn't it? So great to hear from you. Thanks for the questions. And leis are the flower garlands that are worn around the neck. Usually, wonder where else they're worn, Cindy. And the OLP, yes, they are the Hawaiian greeting necklaces, leis. Learned so much on this show. Rhubarb! What a great word. I don't think that was a question. She just wanted to shout out rhubarb on the show. That's Deborah Davies. Welcome back.
Hi, Deborah.
You know Deborah, don't you? And
yes.
I had a lot of daffs already. I moved them last year. They look fabulous. Seems like spring has sprung. So daffs in Portugal, that's a bit unusual. Are they imports, or do we see a lot of daffodils in Portugal?
They're getting more and more common. I have a customer in Estoril that is importing very specific and very pretty daffodils, and I love it. I think they're great. I've got some pictures on my phone of them from last year. I'll post them. But they're just popping through now. Yeah.
Good stuff. Thanks for tuning in tonight, Jackie. That's great to hear from you. Anna, so I think we're all good on the questions, aren't we? And John, I don't know if you have anything to add at this point.
So far, I haven't seen any new ones in yet. I think we're up to date at the minute.
Okay, no worries. It's all good. We've got pictures to show. Deagle's chipped in with, I use a small solar water fountain. Good idea. That would work well in Portugal, wouldn't it? In my bird water table. Keeps the water moving, a nice little water feature, and the Belfast birds come to it. You had an earlier comment as well, Deagle, forgive me. And let me just read that out. Greetings from Belfast from you, Botaro. From what's been a very mild January, over 50% less rainfall in Belfast. Wow. And that's something I wanted to raise, actually, drought here in Portugal. What can we do for water retention? But no snow, little frost, some early buds, but I dread a cold snap in February, March. So still waiting for that and the worst of the weather to pass in spring. What water conservation considerations should we be putting in place, Lee? It's not looking good, is it, in Portugal so far this year?
I think we've passed the worst of the frost here, unlike back in England. But we've had no rain since well before Christmas, no proper rain. And the fire brigade have now banned all garden fires. So no more burning your garden, wasting, if that's something you do, because of the fear of fires getting away, because there's no moisture in the ground. It's terrible this year. Yes. It's been really bad. It really depends on where you are, depending on how much water you need to consider saving and what time you usually start saving it. I'm still hoping to get a couple of good weeks of rain to come before spring hits.
Yes.
And it all depends on your land. Someone like Jason, who might have a water system that runs through his ground, he can make dams, he can slow the flow of the water, he can increase the plants around the water system, which retains that water. But people like us who have just got a simple garden, we're always going to struggle. So water buckets, the big plastic vats that you see occasionally for sale, they're always great. It's a complicated. We could do a show solely on preserving water and using minimum water.
I think that's a great idea. And grey water saving and that sort of thing. It probably does warrant its own special. So we'll talk about that next week. No show next week. It's an in-house meeting and we'll be back in 2 weeks' time. But that's certainly a good one to put on the agenda there. Thank you very much. We missed this earlier on. Baldilocks says his latest gardening venture is growing dragon fruit, which is fantastic. Pictures, please, Baldilocks. It sounds like it'd be lovely to have some pickies from your place. And LLP is here, of course, talking about blue borage. I plant her and Monarda, the bee balm, to make the bees and butterflies happy. We were talking about bee and bird boxes earlier. So blue borage would be good. And let's show those pickies, shall we, from OLP's backyard and the deck over there. Look at this. Isn't that beautiful? Just take your comment off there, OLP. Isn't that a beautiful garden? That's over there in Oregon. And I think the OLP are hoping to recreate something very similar and beautiful over here in Portugal. There's some more blooms, and watch the clouds drift by from that deck there. And there's the sunset from that very same deck there. So thank you very much for those pickies. Staying with the pictures, we have your picks from earlier on. It was a beautiful day in Lisbon today, wasn't it? And look at how viciously that has been pruned, the lemon tree there. And what are you going to do with all that fruit on the ground there, Lee?
It's in a bucket in the street for the neighbours to take.
Oh, good man. Okay, so nothing wasted.
There was 3 50-litre bucketfuls of lemon. That was a big tree when I attacked it. It had another trunk coming from the base of it that came up. Yeah. So I've halved the size of the tree, and then I've really butchered every branch on the tree to bring it right down.
Savage. Yeah. Now, somebody who doesn't know what you would know would be scared to do that.
It really needed it. It really needed it. Yeah. It would be terrifying to look at now, but I know it's going to survive, and I know it's going to come back stronger and healthier and better. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm fully confident I've not killed it.
Okay, John, you've got some interest. Then we'll talk next week about doing a water retention. Well, that sounds like a medical issue, didn't it? But saving water, facing droughts, as we may have to do. The sunset off the front deck, Carl. The flowers are on our backyard, so just make sure we've got that right. There's the sunset. That's the front of the house. How beautiful is that? Fantastic. Thank you for those pickies, OLP there. And Deborah, can I have some lemons, please? I'll swap you for mushy peas. Oh, let's talk about Donna kebabs and mushy peas tonight. Is that a decent swap for you, Lee? You fancy some mushy peas in a tin?
Deborah, no, they're not in a tin. They're homemade. Deborah's making homemade mushy peas and crumpets for me. She's a good girl. I've missed her while she's been back in England.
All right.
Yeah, I'll bring you some lemons up.
Yeah, keep some of those lemons back. Do you have problems with deer in Portugal eating your flowers and veggies? I guess that would be a problem out in Central, not in Lisbon, though, right, Lee?
Deer is not the problem in Portugal. The pigs are the problem.
The pigs, the wild boar, yeah.
The wild boar. They're the big problem here in Portugal.
Okay.
Yeah, and they're much more invasive than the deer. The deer are very tender with what they steal. The pigs just wreck everything. Yeah.
Okay, so be wary of the boar rather than the deer here, OLP, when you get here. And at least some of the ways to get rid of cuttings, branches when the fire ban is in order, and not over your garden fence into the neighbours. What's the best way to get rid of all the cuttings and branches? You want to borrow a shredder, don't you, and make some mulch?
I've actually been looking this weekend at buying myself a semi-professional shredder chipper machine, but I put all ours are going out onto the street this afternoon, and the council will come and collect it for free.
Okay. All right.
So, yeah, each council's different. A lot of the councils allow you a ton per person that lives in the house per year. But other councils will just come and take whatever you put outside. Yeah. But you have to phone up first and let them know you're doing it. And then they'll give you a day to put it out, and then they'll come and collect it the day after normally.
Very good. Okay. That's good to know. And I guess another approach would be to have a community chipper. Maybe have a whip round among people, because it's a great source, isn't it, of sort of fibrous woody matter to go into the soil.
I went down the rabbit hole over the weekend with chippers. It's quite funny. All last week I was doing tree pruning, doing fruit tree pruning, and I've only got a smallish van, so I've been going up to Borage to drop it all off at the council tip there, where they allow me to tip for free. And I'm just thinking about it, how wasteful it is, because I know they're going to use it for biomass for the fires.
Yeah.
Or it'll get broken down and turned into wood pellets, and then they're really expensive at the moment. The wood pellets, firewood, the price has gone through the roof.
Yes.
So I was looking at getting a little chipper and a little, maybe a little machine for making the pellets for the boiler, just to be like a little bit more self-sufficient and save a few more pounds or euros every year.
Good plan. I had a cracking shredder from Lidl's, 150, and it was, I think the standard of their stuff is pretty good, and it's out on temporary loan, but it was a great machine. And you, like you said, Lee, before, you start looking for stuff to put in it, don't you? That's the problem.
The good thing about the Lidl stuff is that it all comes with a 3-year guarantee.
Yeah.
So if you do manage to kill it within the first year, you can return it, and they don't really ask any questions. But
great stuff. Sounds like you've done it.
There's a difference between a chipper and a shredder.
Okay.
A shredder would be no good for me because I need something that can take a bigger dimension of wood, of branches in it.
Okay. Yeah.
So I was looking at a Goodyear version of the chipper shredder machine, which has a side feed around the top feed as well. That makes a big difference. A lot of the ones that are top feed, you find yourself struggling to get the branch in properly. Where a side feed, you can just throw it in.
All right, but you're talking about hundreds, aren't you, for something like that?
Oh, thousands. Yeah,
thousands. Yeah. Okay, all right.
I also wanted something that was compact enough to fit in the back of the van rather than being on trailer or being towed behind.
Yes, of course. All these considerations.
Yeah,
brilliant. We are running out of time. John, understand if you've got to leg it, if Agate's got to leg it, fair enough. You do have to be careful with deer. You'll like this, John, as when they can no longer see the council. I've messed this joke up, but the council simply have no idea. Oh, you have to be careful with deer, as when they can no longer see. I need some commas in here, don't I? The council have simply no idea what to do with them. Very good, Pete. We got there in the end. The naughty piglets are wreaking havoc at the moment, the javali in central Portugal. So bearing out what Lee had to say there, it's the deer you need to, it's not the deer you need to worry about so much. It's the naughty piglets. And is it allowed? Good question, Eric. The shredder mulcher thing going on there, the chipper, can you use that with a petrol engine when the fire ban is in order? That's not a problem, is it, necessarily, Lee?
No, it's not. It's not a problem. The only real restriction on machinery here during the fire ban or during the height of the summer is metal discs on strimmers. Okay. As far as I know, that's the only real restriction. Everything else is free and easy. But it is something you should be wary of, especially with a chipper, because you'll leave it running for a long period of time and the exhaust doesn't get very hot.
Okay. Good to know. And check with your locality, obviously. But that's a good point there, Eric. Worth checking with the local authority. Daffodils are poisonous to deer, so they won't eat them. Don't know if they are poisonous to pigs. Thank you for that, OLP. And any tips on bulbs, Lee? We've just bought about 250 this morning. In the UK, I just leave them. They're okay. Watery or well-drained planting for the bulbs there for Pete?
Sorry, I missed that. Could you just read that?
Bought 250 bulbs this morning. That should make light work. Hey, in the UK, I just leave them. They're okay. Do they need to go in watery or well-drained locations for bulbs?
Bulbs are quite good. You can get away with a wide spectrum of ground with them because they're quite self-sufficient. All the nutrients are packed into that one spot. I don't really lift mine here in Portugal. Occasionally in England, I would lift them and dry them out over winter, put them back out again. But here in Portugal, I've left all mine in, and they seem to do absolutely fine.
Terrific.
One of my customers that does a bit more specialist bulb planting, she keeps all those in containers, moves the container out into the garden when they're in flower, and then she moves them back to behind the shed and covers them over for the height of the summer. And then moves them back out again in the winter time, ready for the spring. So, but it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work moving them about. So
Okay, good
take your
stuff, good
chances,
stuff.
find a decent
Yeah.
bit of ground where you're happy for them to stay and leave them out.
Yeah, and I guess you could just do some sort of ABC testing, couldn't you? And just do little batches here and there, because they'll grow anyway, won't they? They'll spread over the years. So it might be worth doing experimenting with that. It's all about the experimentation with the gardening. Pete, good luck with that.
The thing is, if you look at the ground now, you'll think, oh, this is a wet patch, this is a damp patch. Give it another 2 weeks, and that'll be a bone dry patch here in Portugal. There's never any of that consistency like we get back in England. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Good point, Lee. Thank you for that. I'm afraid I don't know this name or his comment, but he has made it 4 separate times in the chat. So I think we're just going to have to leave that there for somebody maybe to answer in the comments who can understand what's being said there. Thank you so much, Lee. Thanks, Anna. Thanks to John, who's gone. We're just going to play a little bit of this lovely water feature that Deagle mentioned before, and then go out with the usual theme tune. And we'll see you in 2 weeks' time. Cheers, Lee. Thanks, Anna. Bye for now.
Good night, Willie.